walking the paths of our ancestors' feet and listening to the voices that keep our cultures alive. Kamraleng Heritage Podcast, where our stories will forever last.
Moses leaves Egypt, and then they say, he had all these powers from God. He separated water so that his people can pass, which was a lie.
Sanibonani Dimelang Absheni. Welcome to Kamraleng Podcast. We are here at Midrand Escotin, 1685, Lohono Remo Midrand. Moingware na Lohono le ke moingo mogologolo. It's a global icon. It's our academia and a politician and indigenous leader. O tlo gona or phakela dijo tsa bona le go fa mo re leng gona go gopola gore ka mo kana re tlo thaba go ba le moeng wa rena re tlo mo introduce. He doesn't need any introduction, but anyway ka gore re ka lapeng re gopola gore bana ba tlo itsebisha e re bile ka Setswagedi ke amogele ke Motshekga kolobe ya bjatlhaki ke no Korofo Mokgarabe wa Motshekga e re kana go ke tsena go ke le boge sebaka se ke se khumaneng ke le go Professor Dr. Mathole Thobe le ka itsebisha papa batho ba le tsebe gore ke mang doctor ya ba Dr. Mathole le go ne ka re ke lebeletse di profile di re professor go ra re move from being a doctor ya lo ra go re le bala go le professor re go tsone le tola le na gore na le na le tsone ka gae batho ba nyaka go tseba ka le na le tsone kae before to tsana mo ditabeng tse tlileng ka tsona go nfa thobe
nna ke tswaletswe Mamkhadi Mamaila kwa Ulobedu ka tsena sekolo ko Chabelo ona kwa Ulobedu ka tsena sekolo lebaka ke thomile sekolo ka 1957 sekolo Nsebaroki Kuni.
Okay.
And then kaya sekolo Nsebaroki Bochabelo ka 1961.
Okay.
And 1963 kaya ka tsena sekolo mo ba reng ke Medien a Kapane.
Okay.
O tloa mo ke yo tsena Form 1 Bokhaga ka 1965. And then ka fetša Form 3 ka ya sekolong sa Stotolwane ko Polokwane ka 1968. And 1969 ka be ke fetša dithuto tša matric. And then from there ke re ke nyaka o ya sekolong sa bongaka mara bjale next na batswadi ka ska kry-a bursary ka bereka officing tša Native Affairs Commissioner ko Tzaneen. And then o tloa a ke le Tzaneen 1970 ka kry-a mošomo University ya Leboa ba re ke University of Limpopo now. Mo ke thomile ka 1970. Then 1971 ka ke joina underground structures tša ANC. So ke le administration now ka nako e the officials tša university, they were actually members of the security branch. So because of my politics, so I used to advise the students during they were being surveyed by the security police. People like Musiwa Lekota, Unkhopoche Tiro, Nefolo generation, yeah, the 70s. Now I remember Urega 1972 because Negelimo administration Vampalungwalo Regife Tiro from administration Agarganal deliver Mangwalo Adi students, Sana for instance, Havakolota, Wafa Mangwalo, Watsinjiwa Pate. So I'm Palungwalo Regife Tiro. They were expelling him from the university.
Because of politicality.
Yeah, but I admired Tiro Gamata because the last meeting I attended where he addressed, that's when he was saying there's no struggle without casualty. And that was the last time I listened to him, and the next time he was killed by a bomb goes on. I went to that school recently just to opula about him. And now that time we're doing ANC work under the cover the church. Then I worked with Reverend Bears Nudi and Reverend Segamela. Segamela was in the Lutheran church. I was a Lutheran church, but Bears Nudi was the General Secretary of South African Council of Churches. So, 19, and then at the same time, I was studying law from 1971-74. Then I completed my bachelor's degree, and then 1975 I registered for Bachelor of Laws, LLB degree. But now 76 Kiautoma, the student unrest, Soweto uprising, and then I felt that I'm too far from the terrain of struggle. So I applied for articles of clerkship or get trained lawyer. Pretoria. Then I get Pretoria. Gadula le Nkomo was a civic leader, and then so he then introduced me into the civic activities, Pretoria. Lebo Babaraka lebo Mukachwa, lebo Titus Mathole, Motshekga, and other comrades. So from 76, I was then active in the civic structures Pretoria. Now 1977 I completed my LLB, and then 1979 I completed my articles then to become an attorney. But we were not allowed to open offices in town. Never Rumela Maravastat. And then Harrisonjeri graduated. Then we had to graduate Harankua, not in town. And now at the university, more cafeteria university, Mathole and white students and white lecturers Wajaga mo restaurant. Right now we had to buy more of the faster. And I just found that whole situation offensive. So now the best thing I must get a scholarship and go abroad. And luckily I passed my LLB with distinctions in constitutional law and criminal law. So I was allowed to register for a doctorate. And then I registered for a doctorate, then got a scholarship to go and study, do research at Albert Ludwigs University in Germany. Then when I got there, I got in touch with the ANC and PAC exiles, and I started to do anti-apartheid work in Germany in 1979. Now I got in touch with the ANC chief representative in Bonn, called Tony Sedat. Then I would collect the ANC materials from Bonn, and then give lectures about the struggle in South Africa, in Germany. So 1980, September, I went to the US to read for a master's degree, and then I got in touch with Vilakazi, who was the ANC chief representative in Boston. And then I got in touch with Colin Ramusi. He was in Chicago. Abdul, the jazz person, Motshekga. So those were the people that were interacting with and doing anti-apartheid work there. Now, when I finished my LLM degree in 1981, I think the Boers picked up following my anti-apartheid work. They refused to give me a passport, so I couldn't come home. So what I did was I applied for another scholarship to go back to Germany. Then I went to Germany. When I was in Germany, I continued the anti-apartheid work. But I also found that only a lot of information about Africa and Africans in Germany and the US than in South Africa. So I felt that when I come back, I won't have access to that information. So that's when I established the Kara School for Philosophy and Culture and registered that school. Then I felt that the information from the books is not enough. So I created a forum on which brought together African students from West Africa, North, East and Southern Africa. I worked with an Angolan called Gilbert Mavinga, and a Togolese called Sawa Gobla, and one Tanzanian chap who was studying theology. So that became the core, the Kara Heritage heritage school. So what we did was to look at the history of the people of West Africa and the languages, East Africa and the languages, Southern Africa, we look at Egypt, and then we look at the indigenous religions to try and establish the commonalities. Now we were then helped by the books of Sheikh Anta Diop, who wrote that all indigenous African people came from Northeast Africa, in the area of the Great Lakes, and that from there they moved north along the Nile and established the ancient Egyptian civilization. And this area south of Egypt was called Ethiopia. And now when we looked also at the literature, the Greeks, they said ancient Ethiopians came from the source of the Nile, which is in Uganda, Burundi, Tanzania. Now they said that these ancient Ethiopians were indigenous African people, black people like ourselves. Now they created Egypt and transmitted their civilization to Egypt, which meant that what is called ancient Egyptian civilization is actually a civilization that came from the source of the Nile. And now the question was, who were these Ethiopians? I find that they're also called Nubians, but the area they came from, there's an island, so the source of the Nile itself was called Kumara or Tamera, which means the land of the Virgin Mother of the Sun. And now we're inside Lake Victoria, which was known as Nyanza Nolubale, which means the great pool of the most ancient people. There's an island called Mara Island, and then Ukara Island. Now the Mara was the mother of the sun, and the sun is Kara. So Ukara means the island of the sun. And that Ukara was also called Uranga or Ulanga. And on the island of the sun, even today, you find people called Vakara, which means that the people or the children of the sun. So we also found that these people of the sun are called Vakara or Vakaranga or Vakalanga or Wakaranga, Makalanga, Vakalaga. And that suggested to us that it means the original people who were the ancient Ethiopians, were actually the Karanga people who created ancient Egyptian civilization. But because the source of the Nile was called Buntu or Gantu, it also meant that these Karanga people were Bantu people. And now that meant that the Bantu people from Central Africa or the source of the Nile are the most ancient people. And now some people went to, or those who went to Egypt, and they established a city called Saqqara, which means the city of the sun, or in the Bible they say Anu, in Hebrew is On, which means the city of the sun. And those who went to West Africa, they created a town called Accra. Accra also means the city of the sun. So that confirmed what Sheikh Anta Diop said, saying that this civilization of ancient Ethiopia, ancient Egypt, was the creation of Bantu people or Kalanga people. But you see, the challenge was that there were, from the time of Abraham, there were these Semitic people called the Hyksos. The Hyksos are the forebears of the Jews. They came into Egypt under false pretenses, and then to spy on the Egyptian people. At the end, the Jews conquered and colonized Egypt. And then from there, the native Egyptians, because they were Bantu people, they were Kalanga people, they were Ethiopian people or Nubian people, then they fled to the south and established a national liberation organization. And they fought against those Jewish people, captured others. And that's where the story of the Jewish slaves in Egypt comes. Those people were prisoners of war, and they were made to work in the quarries. Like Mandela was made to work in the quarries on Robben Island. And now when these people were working there over a long time, now, you know, when you have domestic helpers, and then they get used to their children, and one of the daughters of the Pharaoh, who was black, got curious, fell in love with a slave, a white slave. They had a child called Moses, and this Moses was educated by Africans in the house of the Pharaoh, and then they initiated him into the secrets, and they gave him the name Osarsip, which means the prophet of the Ethiopian or African god Uzara, which means the son of the sun. In Greek, Uzara is Osiris. Osiris means the son of the sun. So Moses was a colored child, born of a black woman, African woman, and a Jewish slave. But because the daughter of the Pharaoh could not tell the parents that I had a child with the slave, it would have been a scandal. Then she said she picked the child in the water, in the river. And then they raised this child. Now this child grows up as Moses, and then is initiated in the African mysteries, magic. And now when he grew up, he couldn't see the reason why he should succeed as a pharaoh. He felt he was entitled to succeed as a pharaoh. And in Africa, the blue blood, royal blood counts. So he couldn't qualify to be a pharaoh. That's where you see in the Bible they said Moses killed an Egyptian. It was actually an insurrection. He mobilized other slaves to fight so that he could get the throne. But he was defeated. He ran away because he was more black than white. He ran away to Ethiopia, as the Bible says. He stayed with Jethro. Jethro, then he married another African, a child of Jethro. And now he organized secretly an army to go and attack Egypt. And then there was a fight, there was a stalemate. Then an agreement was reached that to end the war, Moses must take his own people, because he had recruited other people, Africans. And then those Africans plus the slaves waged its war against the Egyptians. So they allowed them to go. And then that's where Moses leaves Egypt. And then they say, he had all these powers from God. He separated water so that his people can pass, which was a lie, because there was no water where they passed. And then Moses goes to, the Bible says, Mount Sinai. There was no Mount Sinai at that time. It was Mount Hara. In Greek, it became Mount Horeb. And then they claim that God gave him 10 laws there, which was a lie, because during his training in Egypt, he learned about 42 laws, and then he took 10 out of 42 laws and claimed that he was given by God. And then from there, the light-skinned, the white slaves fought with Moses because of his black wife. They said, no, you can't be our leader when you have this black wife. And then you say you are the prophet of God, but these black people gave us problems, we can associate with them. Then they killed Moses on the way. So Moses didn't arrive in Palestine. Then they create a false story that God gave them Palestine, and the war is still continuing right now as we speak because of the lies that are in the Bible. But let's leave that story. Then the other thing is that when I came, when I didn't have a passport, and then I had 3 children. One was born in America, Mathole. She's a lawyer, who's working with me. Another one was born in Germany, Larato. She's an estate agent in Limpopo. Now my scholarship was coming to an end. I couldn't come home, but the Germans were very close to South Africans. Now my professor at UNISA was a German. Now I had to come home. Now those Germans then spoke to my professor. My professor, I think he was well connected with the Boers. And then they argued that you people say you want to work with African people and so that they can support your programs. And then he is an educated person. Why don't you allow him to come back? And that professor gave me a job at UNISA. And then he said, no, I want that man to come and work. He's my student. And that man was my student, Professor Strauss. So I came 1983, and then I started working at UNISA. Now that's the year when the UDF was formed. So what we did as part of strengthening the UDF, we firstly I established Kara offices in Mamelodi, and that's when the time when the youth were burning witches. So there was a Mamelodi Youth Congress and Mamelodi Civic Organization. Now we worked with ANC ANC underground structures, people like Stanza Bupape, Sandy Lewis, and then to say, how can we help these young kids not to kill people? The struggle is not about the witches. The struggle is for liberation. So we got youngsters like the leadership who Becky Nkosi, who the civic leaders who Maluleke, and then we worked with them. So what then Kara became that cultural organization, trying to bring political education to the youth under the guise of culture. And then, but we also realized that, you remember 1984, there were unrest in the Val, spreading to all others, Soweto, Pretoria, Tembisa, and everywhere. So we established the Democratic Lawyers Congress. And then in the Democratic Lawyers Congress, we adopted the Freedom Charter and affiliated to the UDF. And then our slogan was, no lawyer shall be free unless Mandela is free. So I worked with J.B. Swanyoni. He was also a member of parliament later. He's practicing now in Ibrongospruit. He was also with the South African Human Rights Commission. We worked with Billy Motley. He's now a judge, and Ledwawa is the deputy judge president of Gauteng. Those were youngsters that I recruited into the Democratic Lawyers Congress. Now, 1985, then that's the year in which the ANC held the consultative conference in Kabwe in Zambia. And now P.W. Botha issued what he called a Rubicon speech, which was promoted by Pig Botha, to say, no, there's no need for the ANC to pursue the struggle because P.W. Botha is prepared to bring about changes. So as the Democratic Lawyers Congress, we mobilized students. I addressed students at UNISA, University of Cape Town, Natal University. We were saying Botha is lying, there's nothing like that. And then the day he announced that speech, Tambo had organized everywhere in Zambia so that the comrades must listen to that speech, because they thought that Tambo would announce that he's ready for negotiations and so on. And then we went against that speech to say this fellow is lying. We should not listen to him. Now, then I got into trouble. The security police in Mamelodi arrested me, they beat me up. They throw me out of the window, and I was cut by the glass here. And then that's when I lived at 12707 in Mamelodi East. So I thought that these guys will come for me again. So I ran away and stayed in Yesteras in Mamelodi. And then later I realized it is too close. I moved to Atteridgeville. I lived at the Nkomo's place. And then later I came to Tembisa. I got a house here in next to the hospital. What do you call this place?
Hospital View.
Also, Hospital View. That's when I lived, but in Tembisa, Comrade Zita, Matlangu, Isaac Matlangu, and Pet Twala, and others. So I was received by those comrades. So Tembisa became my home.
Okay. Speaking of that, Tembisa, I just wanted to check whether if you still recall this picture. If you still recall this picture.
I recall it, but I didn't know that it exists.
No, it's just a surprise that when you are talking about your political journey, it actually, here are the people that you've actually assisted.
Yes.
When they were arrested for their political,
Yeah, so you see, this was the leadership, but they operated under the guise of the civic. So I worked with them. But you see, before I talk about what we did here, is that in Mamelodi, I worked at the University of South Africa, and I established the Kara Heritage Institute in Mamelodi, and then I also established Mamelodi Legal Services Center. Now, in 1985, I attended an international conference in Berlin, in Germany. That was after the Capio conference. Now, I met with Tony Mungalo. He was the ANC chief representative in the German Democratic Republic. And he was with Dr. Zola Square, who was the ANC chief representative in Ethiopia. Now you see, that was the time when we believed that there were organs of people's power in the country, and they were those leaders of these organs of people's power in the country. And our view was that we're going to seize power and establish a socialist democratic system in the country.
Okay.
So the two comrades, Mohalons, took me to Judea, bought me Marxist-Leninist books, so that I can prepare to be a lawyer who will defend the revolution.
Yeah. Okay, don't forget to subscribe and like and comment. I'm a person who sees it all. The journey, it's so impeccable to listen to the great minds and to the legend, the living heritage in our space. And I hope that we're going to enjoy more as time goes on. I'm going to also share this also again, just to pick your memory. I also have this also as part of the part that you played during the struggle, where you assisted in terms of the people that you've assisted when as political prisoners, assist them to release.
From here, I recognize Comrade Zita.
Yes.
And Comrade McBride. I don't remember the other one. But Comrade Zita, very close. He was too much of an insider in the struggles here. And he is someone who, I saw him last week at the funeral. But I had spoken to Comrade Mathole, who was an ex-Robben Island prisoner. And then we worked with him. Well, after his release, I spoke to Comrade Pat Twala, who was an MK operative as well. And then we agreed that we should get hold of Comrade Zita because we believe that he has the institutional memory of the whole struggle that was waged here. The idea was that we get hold of him and write a book about the struggles here because, you know, I lived in, you said, Hospital View.
Yeah.
That time there was no Ivory Park. The people who came to Ivory Park were squatters next to the Hospital View. Now there was a man called Songo who was selling stands here. And now this Songo sold stands. Now he was in conflict with the TPA, the Transvaal Provincial Administration, because they were in charge. But now Ivory Park grew to what it is today. So we felt that the person who knows the struggles inside Tembisa and who has an institutional memory of how Ivory Park came to be and the surrounding is Comrade Zita. So, I didn't speak to him. I was talking to other people. Comrade Bengeza was our chairperson of the first branch after the unbanning of the ANC. No, he was the second after Andrew Mapetu, who was killed in a car accident. So our branch was second biggest branch, and now the second one was Katlehong. So I remember when Mapetu was the chairperson, we were at war with them in Qatar, guys here at the hostels. Now, I think there were only two of us who had cars. Now we would have meetings until 1 o'clock at night. And now the next thing is that those of us who had cars would have to deliver other comrades. After delivering them, then you find that it's 3 o'clock, you are alone in the car. And now there's this danger. So that's the danger or the challenges that we lived under then. So the situation became so bad that Mandela was in Mpumalanga, and then we were under attack here. So I went with Andrew Mapetu to Lenasia. Mandela was in Lenasia. Then we said to Mandela, you come and address the people and assure them that they will be secure. Otherwise, as the what we call the BEC, we're going to resign and leave you with your own organization. And Mandela had to come to address a big rally. And then we were surrounded by the hippos, but Mandela was just too powerful a figure. They didn't do anything to us. So Tembisa was, in this area, Kailam was really a war zone. And the only comrade of ours who has really been a star in terms of journalism. I don't know why he studied journalism. It's Comrade Zita, and that's why we thought we need a book about those struggles, and he is a person who can do that. So they got arrested. They were Comrade Amos Musana, and then I went to defend them. But you see, what happened then was when I established the Mamidoli Legal Service Center, I established the Tembisa Legal Service Center. And then the ANC in February 1986, I was working with the underground structures of the ANC based in Harare and Uktamukava and Stanza in South Africa. So we arranged that because I was working at the university, then I applied for the comrades in Harare, Manchester, and Mambana. They organized with the University of Zimbabwe. There was Professor Austin, who was a comrade, and Professor Makamura. Then they invited me to Zimbabwe to give a lecture at the university. But the idea was just to justify that I should leave the country. So when I got into Zimbabwe, we had consultations, I briefed them, and they said, no, the role that you are playing there needs the attention of leadership in Botswana. So in Zambia. So they gave me a ticket to go to Zambia. Then I was received by Comrade Joe Nhlanhla. He was the head of the department, the political military council. And then he worked with his deputy was Jacob Zuma. We met at a township until late at night. Then in the morning, they took me to the Alpha Center. That is the headquarters of the ANC. Now you have the offices of the president and the leadership. Then on the first floor, we will have the offices of a recently established Department of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, which was headed by Comrade Sola Square. And then he worked with the Secretary was Job Odwan. And then they worked with the Penwell Maduna, with the Teddy Pekano, who is late. Now underneath, it was a big garage where there were, cars. Then they would fit these cars with the bombs and things like that, and send them into the battlefield. So now Comrade Zuma and John Nhlanhla, they had instructions from the president that I must be appointed to be a member of the Legal and Constitutional Affairs Committee, who would operate from home. So they gave me the task of organizing the lawyers, because I started the Democratic Lawyers Congress, but there was a Democratic Lawyers Association in KZN. There was a Democratic Lawyers Organization in Cape Town led by Dala Omar. The one in KZN was led by Pius Langa and a certain Comrade Mlaba. Now there was Eastern Cape Democratic Lawyers Association. And now my Democratic Lawyers Congress organized a branch in the Free State. So my task was to get all these lawyers together. Now when I came back, the first time I got to the Eastern Cape, Umtata, I drove to Bloemfontein to meet with the lawyers and recruit them into forming a national organization without telling them about the story of the ANC. I went to meet Dumisan Zavenza. From there I went to the Eastern Cape. I met with the particular Romisa and Smear, and then I went to KZN. I met with Pius Langa and Linda Zama. And then I sold the idea of a single organization. They bought into it. I went back to Lusaka. They organized funding for me that I can travel, but also they felt that the Mamelodi Legal Service Center and Tembisa Legal Center must be expanded. So we established Gauteng Legal Service Center, Mangau in Bloemfontein, Galeshewe, and so on. But because it was then after the declaration of the state of emergency in 1985, many comrades were being detained, like Comrade Zita, Umsana in Tembisa. So the ANC was giving me money to do that work because you couldn't ask the comrades, they were not working in the Rwanda Mzabalas. You can ask money. So we would defend them. Then the ANC would give us money through an organization called Troke in Ireland. That money is a Roman Catholic organization. That money would be sent to Father Culture or to the SACC. So the SACC with Bears Noti would give us money to establish the legal services centers. So the work that they were doing, we had to defend them because they were the organs of people's power, and so on. So that's how far I know Comrade Zita and how we worked together. Now, in 1986, then we had a permanent state of emergency. Now, I think the struggle was intensifying, and this was, they thought that at some point they would have to negotiate. So, and they set up think tanks to say what should the future constitution of South Africa look like. Now, when Tambo launched the Constitutional Committee, and our Department of Legal and Constitutional Affairs became the secretariat for the Constitutional Committee. The mandate Tambo gave that committee was that they must study and produce models of a constitution that we will use. And then Paulo Jordan was the convener, was the researcher. Now, Jack Simons was the chairperson of the Constitution Committee. So last year was the deputy. So when Tambo launched that committee, Zunzo opened the meeting, Tambo addressed the meeting, and he said that the lawyers at home must be involved because they have a contribution to make. So the contact between the ANC and the lawyers at home was myself. And then they also decided that I must ensure that apart from building a single lawyers organization, that we must expand, establish more legal service centers. So Zola took me to Comrade Ngovi's house. Ngovi was the treasurer. So we discussed that. That's the day when we learned that Comrade Make was killed in Swaziland. So ANC funded this legal service center so that we can defend the comrades who were involved. But also these comrades, sometimes they will be arrested and the parents don't know where they are. And when the parents have to find out, these committees were called detainee support groups. We would support the detainee support group working with in Pretoria there was Reverend Smith. He was in the SACC. And then at the head office, we had Beas Noti, who was very helpful. I remember that, Sophie de Brain, when Nodi wants to visit the ANC, I would arrange that, go with Nodi. So, because I was part of the headquarters of the ANC, then I would be a go-between. Then I was working with Sophie de Brain. I would communicate with her. She would make appointments for Beas Nodi to meet with O.R. Tambo and other leaders. But Nodi was really a revolutionary, because when the SACC was formed in 1968, on May 1968, he was in charge of the SACC. And then he also established the Christian Institute, and then helped to bring together indigenous African churches. So he was really a comrade, and all the comrades, those who were arrested, were lawyers like Priscilla Janam, Ishmael Ayop, and then Beas Nodi organized the funding for their defense with an organization called IDAF, based in London.
Okay, don't forget to subscribe and like and comment. I think Professor refile that package. Because I've seen in some of the platforms the importance of heritage. The importance of heritage, how to preserve our monument or museums and all that. And when we look back, when after 1994, things were actually coming okay, or bit by bit, seeing that the government is doing well. But now, gradually, only piece cardiac. We have one piece now. We see some pieces now. I know you've had it a lot of. You've been a chairperson of a lot of committees in the parliament, where you were very advocate on that space. But now we are looking at the heritage spaces, and how do we preserve such? Because it seems as if there's something that's not been done well. And I'm putting this on you. If you can maybe share that information to say what should be done.
Now, before we get to that, in Tembisa we have an icon, Tami Munyana.
Yes.
Who worked with Comrade Wally Serote, Balagambete in Botswana. They established a cultural organization called Medu and Sembo. And Tami Munyana was killed by the Boers in Botswana. Now, as I said, I was involved in the history and heritage space from the 70s when I was in Germany. So apart from being a member of the Happy and that generation, the 70s. Now I remember Urega 1972, because Negelimo administration, Tiro, from administration, I get deliver Mangwalwa at the students, for instance, Hawa Kolota, Wafa Mangwalwa was in Jiwapate. So I'm palungalo fetiro. They were expelling him from the university.
Because of political injury.
Yeah, but I admired Diro Gamata because the last meeting I attended where he addressed, that's when he was saying there's no struggle without casualty. And that was the last time I listened to him, and the next time he was killed by a bomb goes on. And some of us didn't agree, especially when they held a meeting, a convening meeting for Saturday. They say arrival is Friday, but they make other people arrive on Friday, and they elect people on Saturday. When other people come, there's already an NEC, and people from the Eastern Cape pulled out, KZN pulled out, we pulled out, so it died. So 2017, we then assembled and established the South African Interfaith Council, SAIC, which still exists, and it represented in the Presidential Interfaith Working Group. And currently, that SAIC is in the G20 Interfaith Forum. We are preparing for the conference in August. So I'm still in the religious space. You see, from Karaism, I realized that even the Roman Catholic Church, Greek Orthodox Church, and all these Western churches came from the Coptic churches of ancient Ethiopian and Egyptians. So basically that what we call Christianity itself. If you read Saint Augustine of Hippo, he says that that which is called Christianity never has not existed. And then when we did research, we found that there was a Pharaoh Khufu of ancient Egypt, and in Greek he's called Cheops. He descended from the people called the servants of the sun, Bakhalak. And in Greek they call them Shemshur or Horus kings. So these were the custodians of ancient African civilization. Their priest was called Nyambe, Zambe. That's why you have rivers like Zambezia, names like Zambia, Gambia, Mozambique. These names were the names of the first of all prophets and scientists. He was an African from the source of the Nile, the custodian of all wisdom. And his books were called the Corpus Hermeticum. And now the Romans and the Arabs defined them as paganism, and they banned them. But those that are still available, they are hidden in the British Museum, the French Museum, the American libraries, and so on. And these people come back to us and say, we have no civilization, we have not contributed anything to human civilization. And that's why all the time when I was in politics, I kept heritage next to me. I kept the Kara Heritage Institute. It's now more than 40 years. But even my own organization, the African National Congress, have not yet fully understood the importance of heritage. The earlier leaders, Mutambo, they knew that heritage and culture are weapons of struggle. But I think our current leadership are more westernized, maybe because, you see, Marxist-Leninism has been our tools in the struggle. And some comrades cannot reconcile the relationship between our Marxist-Leninism philosophy and our own heritage. And some of us believe that our heritage is the most powerful weapon. Marxism, Leninism gave us the tools of analysis, but Marxism, Leninism cannot replace our heritage. So I think therefore that the work that you are doing yourself is a continuation of a struggle. Now the moral degeneration and social ills that we experience today cannot be resolved through political ideology. We have to go back to ourselves and say, who are we? Where do we come from? Why are we in this world? What is our destiny? So I would say maybe this is part of the second phase of the struggle, because the first phase was a political struggle. We got political freedom without spiritual, cultural, social, and economic freedom. And again, we are, as the African majority, we are a cultural minority in the country of our birth. And our children want to be like Chinese, they want to be like Americans, they want to be like everybody else in the world except themselves. Now, if we have a youth that are supposed to be our future, and our youth become imitations of other nations, it means we have no future ourselves. So that's why some of us believe that cultural workers are very important. But I was in the Pan-African Parliament. I pushed heritage there. But we have a problem that the North is Islamized. And the Muslims are saying they have a policy of Arabization and Islamization. And they believe that the whole of Africa must be Islam. But Islam is a younger religion, like Judaism, like Christianity, the Western Christianity, came out of Africa. They are actually distortions of what the true spirituality of African people is. So if Africans have to be converted, if the whole continent has got to be Islamized or Christianized, that will destroy our authentic identity and cultural heritage as African people. Luckily, the African Union adopted the Charter of African Cultural Renaissance, but because the leadership in the North and the South are Western Christian and they are Muslims, they don't put the African agenda. And for us, therefore, to protect our children and our future, we have to push the Pan-Africanism and the African Cultural Renaissance, because those are the movements that can help us to defend our identity, because Africa is the biggest continent and the well-resourced continent. Our culture, you take the Ndebele culture here, you take the Zulus, the Vendas and the Tsongas and everybody, we could harness our culture for economic development. But look, the Basotus have this blanket, the Ndebeles have the blanket, but they don't have the international IP. They don't own those And the Basotho blankets are produced somewhere in the Netherlands. Then the Ndebele artifacts, they are in Japan. So we don't even own our culture. Our artifacts in the British Museum, in the French Museum. Last month I was in Berlin. That Berlin Museum is full of African artifacts. If we can take those artifacts, they would close down. Now there's a move to saying we need to repatriate all those artifacts because the Americans, the British, the French, the Germans, they make a lot of money on tourism because people are interested in ancient cultures. But these ancient cultures are from Africa. People don't come to Africa to see what we have done. They go to Britain. And now the British and the Americans are the ones who become cultural experts, writing about our culture, misrepresenting it, because they have to prove that it is inferior to theirs. So I'm trying to say that you may not appreciate that the work that you do is actually an important part of the struggle for our spiritual and cultural liberation. Because if we are spiritually and culturally free, we will be a creative people, and this creativity will also help us with our social and economic development. If you can look at South Africans, you go to Mall of Africa, go to all the shopping complexes. The people who buy there are African people. We own the land, but we don't produce anything from the land. We own the culture, but we don't produce any cultural artifacts. All the things that our dresses, imagine if we were to produce our own shoes, leather bags, and clothes, and buy from ourselves. There would be no poverty. Now, yesterday, I was addressing a meeting of more than 500 traditional leaders in Sandton, hosted by Motshekga. I was saying to them that you traditional leaders, you give people land to build malls. In these malls, you don't have shares. They tell you that they will create jobs for you. But how much are our people, workers, paid in those jobs? No insurance, nothing. I said, land is a permanent part of the business. If you give them land, why can't they give you at least 30% of shares? And then you create a community trust. From the community trust, you can look after the needy. Right now here at Tembisa, Ivory Park, our people have established their spaza shops. And today, the spaza shops are taken by foreigners. The shops are replaced by the malls. People buy in the malls. If you cross the highway, Babsfontein, there are farms. If we can train our youth to go to Babsfontein, produce all these fruits and vegetables, and we come to the mall and say no one from outside Tembisa should supply there. Our kids will go and produce and we sell. There would be no poverty. Now we are told that we are fighting poverty, unemployment, and inequality. How do you fight those things if you don't produce anything? So we have to produce to fight poverty. Now the Chinese are our friends. They helped us in the struggle. But that doesn't mean that they must take over our markets. They dump their goods here and then add to our poverty. And those goods are not even quality goods, because you are what you eat and what you wear. If you eat this cheap food, which is not nutritious,
lifespan reduces,
and then our kids are stunted, they can't perform well at school because of the diet. And then because we wear second-hand clothes, we don't look well. And then the Boers built the 4-roomed houses. We are building the Kuku, RDP houses, substandard. So everything about us is substandard, from the food, from the clothing, from the houses. How do you justify the fact that for so many years, when you go here to Ivory Coast, people are living on the riverbank? When that river is flooding, it sweeps away people. But if you live this side, you go that side, you have the Boers, they have big land, they have cattle. We don't have a place to expand. Then you go to KZN. People build on the riverbanks because white people own the land. They don't want to release the land. And now when it's raining, the flood, people of KZN are swept away by the water. Now, today, people go to Durban and say people must cremate. It's not African culture or Zulu culture to cremate people. They say they cremate them because there's no burial space, or they have to bury you on top of other people. And the municipality here in Johannesburg, they talk about things that they must bury people on top of the others. But look at the houses here. This person who owns Mall of Africa, they didn't buy that land. Some Indian fellow was a tailor for Paul Kruger. Paul Kruger gave them all the land, and the democratic government did not know whose land is this. They went around looking for people. They found a family in India. They say, no, you have land in South Africa. They give them the land when we need the land. So the government was supposed to expropriate the land for our use. Now the Indian owners of that land say in their culture, they don't sell land. Then they build houses. Our middle class people, they live in those houses. They can't own those houses. And they are working for wild companies. When you lose the job, you lose the house.
Sure.
Or when you die, your kids cannot afford to be there, then your kids become homeless. So it means we don't have security of shelter, and we are not addressing all those things. If you take the highway to Mohali City, there's land on both sides, but there are pockets of informal settlements. And you ask yourself, do we have government? What is the purpose of government? Because they're supposed to get land released, have a plan, build houses for our people. Now, the majority of the children who are growing up in the informal settlements, what type of people are going to be? And then we claim, we go to Trump, we say, no, South Africa has a problem of crime. Can you come and help us? Can you really ask Trump, a warmonger, to come and help you to solve your crime?
He'll just laugh at you.
And also he will spy on us because he wants to build military bases in Botswana, in Lesotho, and our allies are in the East, China, Russia, and they want to war with Russia, which means that they will wage war from here, from Palestine against Russia. We will be caught in the crossfire. We will be wiped out. So there's no way Trump can be our friend. During the struggle, the West didn't support us. And now how can we allow them to come and help us solve crime here? The crime here is not because our people are criminals. You take people's land, they can't farm. You take their minerals, and then you offer them inferior facilities. Hunger knows no boundary. When people are hungry, they have to find food somewhere. And this starts on a small scale. At the end, our people become professional criminals because we don't solve the social and economic conditions. So I think that through heritage, we can restore the dignity of our people. But if you restore their dignity, you must also create social and economic conditions which would help them sustain that. So in short, I don't see any weapon of the struggle that we're in except culture and heritage. So I was very happy to see that Comrade Zita is with his son and Mr. Tiwani Kasongo.
Yes, the Prof. I just want to check Mathole. What legacy you want to leave behind? You've traveled, you've done everything. You've actually done an exceptional work in terms of your leadership. You've guided many people. You've mentored many. So what legacy do you actually be leaving behind?
I don't need any legacy. I just want to see a growing number of young people accept that culture and heritage is a weapon of struggle and is a source of social and economic development. That, if we could just focus on the attire, African attire, African food, agriculture, we could liberate ourselves. I believe that this thing of foreign investment is not helping us, cannot help us, because now we are in the artificial intelligence, the technology. People bring their money here with their technology. They don't transfer the technology to you, and they bring their own people to come and work. We just become laborers for them. So I think that we need to build a homegrown economy. We can use attire, food, agriculture, because if you go into Pretoria and Asante, Nigerians have their restaurant. There's not even an African restaurant anywhere. And if there are African restaurants, Africans don't support that. They want to eat fork and knife. Whereas if you have malalimodi and pap, there's nothing that stops you from eating with your hands wherever you are. So that's why I agree with the students who say we must rewrite African history. So that's what I'm pushing for. And we must decolonize the African mind, because we are still so captured that we want to see Africa being an image of Europe, which will never happen. So at the moment, we run workshops at Kara with students from the universities then, high schools, out of school students. I give lectures at Brits University. So I'm 76 now, and I'm saying if I can live for the next 4 years, I want to get more and more young people into the heritage space, into the cultural space, and also push universities to introduce our heritage studies there, and push our languages to be taught in the universities. I was talking to Motshekga on Newsroom Africa this morning. The King Dalinyebo was saying that his court is the court of first instance, and the police cannot come and arrest a person in his area without talking to him first. So they were saying, but how does he do this? Where does he get the power to do this? I say we teach English common law, we teach Roman Dutch law, we don't teach our own law. Now there's a clash of legal system. Africans, this is a country, and if their cultures are undermined, they feel undermined. And this country is also its ancestors. When we were in the struggle, although we would not tell anybody, we'll go to the Nyangas and say, hey man, throw your bones, check where the Boers are. They're not catching up with me. With me.
Yeah.
I remember I used to take, Peter Mugawa's mother. They would arrest him with JB Sbanyu. We don't know where they are. Then we go to Al-Khanya. Then you ask those prophets, are these people still alive? They will tell you that no, they are alive, but they're being tortured where they are. But don't worry, they will be released. They won't kill them. So now that we're in power, we think that those Inyangas are irrelevant. Those spiritual churches, they are irrelevant. But those people were part of the struggle. Now we move more with the Western Methodist Church and so on. Okay, they helped, but they cannot prophesy. According to them, the last prophets are the ones in the Bible. But our prophets are still alive. You know, there was a man, Vargitok, among Midrand police station. He says most of the criminals that they caught was because they go to the traditional healers. The traditional healers will tell them, oh, this guy did this, he's hiding at such and such a place. So the police stations work with the Nyangas, but no one recognizes them. So investigating officers, they work with those Nyangas, they give them information. Now we have that resource,
Indigenous knowledge.
but we are not using it.
It's the weapon. Yeah, I think, thank you, Prof. I think Mola Choma Ferrelo, sincerely more wedding Yawaso, which is Youth Monday.
You see, the sad thing is that we look at things just politically. And then what's going to happen that there will be a youth day. The president or the premier will go and give a speech. They will be reporting about what they have done or they are doing in government. After that, there will be cultural performances. There's no discussion. There's no explanation of what does that culture mean for our development. From there, the youth go and drink. I went to Botswana. I had a meeting with the chiefs there. They complain about the same thing. That on Youth Day or any holiday, or Women's Day, the politicians, they speak and the people entertain them and they give them food and drinks. So these holidays no longer mean anything. And then the youth also have this tendency to say, don't tell us about apartheid. We want to move on. Those are your stories. These people are born again. So I think we need to reimagine these youth days, these women's days, to make sure that we let the young people and young women understand that this is not about a celebration jiving. It is about recultivating the revolutionary spirit, because the revolution has to continue. It's not yet to uhuru. It's not time to jive. Right now you have AfriForum. AfriForum is now more powerful than the mass democratic movement. Some of our kings and queens, when they have problems, they go to AfriForum. Because our democratic government, after 1994, they said the money that they were giving us to run Legal Service Center must go to the government, the Department of Justice. It created something called the Foundation for Human Rights. This Foundation for Human Rights now, they want test cases. They no longer service the ordinary people. I mean, a person from, old lady from Winnie Mandela, when she has a problem, she goes to a lawyer. They say, give us 1,000 to open the file. They have not listened. If they listen to her, you may find that it's not even a case. You need a social worker to help her. But now she must pay 1,000 rand. So which means that justice now is not accessible to the majority of the people. I was talking to some lawyers. A woman is fighting with the husband. The husband sues for divorce. He takes away children. For 3 years, the mother cannot see the children. The lawyers want 65,000 from this woman. This woman cannot afford the 65,000. Then the attorneys rely on the advocates. And then the advocates want 75,000 when the client cannot pay the 65,000. So the courts now are the courts for the rich. The poor people cannot access justice. So those are the things that we should be looking at. But we're going for national dialogue. The president stands up and says civil society organization will be involved. When we look at the civil society organization, it will be Nelson Mandela Foundation, Thabo Mbeki Foundation, Jacob Zuma's Foundation, Motshekga Foundation. But those foundations, they are not present in Ivory Park. They are not present in Soweto. They are not there in Deep Slope. So who is going to set the agenda for the national dialogue? So my belief is that we must go back and remobilize mass democratic organizations, because what has happened, EFF out of ANC, UDM out of ANC, MK out of ANC, is splinting the people's power, and we are soon going to have a white president. I'm not anti-white, but this is Africa. It will be the biggest scandal on the continent to have a South Africa with a white president, white president. So we can't rely now on these political parties. They talk about a unity of political parties. What we need more is a civil society organization, the old mass democratic movement, so that the ANC itself must be made to understand that where we come from with our Tambo from the 80s, Tambo ensured that we have a civic organization. This Sanko, we established it in Lusaka. They will build Jardin here. We'll get the civic leaders, take them to Lusaka, Harare, workshop them, and they come back, act as civics, but carrying the agenda of the liberation movement. We had an organization called NAMDA, of the lawyers. We have the youth organizations which formed PSYCHO and so on. And all these structures then came together to form the UDF, United Democratic Front. But we have demobilized those structures now. Everyone is doing its own thing. And that's why ANC is at weakest. Because if you say ANC is the leader of society, it must lead civic organizations, churches organizations, traditional leaders organizations, traditional leaders organizations. Now, an ANC which cannot lead those structures becomes an elitist organization. That's why we are able to get 40%, and next time we can even get less percent. So that's why I like what Panyaza, the Sufi, is doing now. Yesterday we were with him. He addressed more than 400 traditional leaders, and on the 27th we'll be with him. He will be addressing lawyers organization, judges. So he's taking the ANC back to the people. So I hope that the other leaders in other provinces will take the organization to the people. Because, Chris Hani used to say that the ANC is like fish in the water. The water of the ANC is the people.
Yes.
But now we have come out of the people. We call ourselves one another, hey, leadership in a vacuum. And that's a problem.
It's the people's contract.
Yeah.
Let me thank you, Kolobe.
Don't close it before
Okay.
you close it together. And so that so that I just want to come in as we cut this part later.
That's fine.
I might.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm going to work.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Good. No. So how the thank you very much. So my no, thank you very much.
No, thanks, comrade.
Yeah. And then
It is good to see that the people from the trenches are still alive and doing good work.
Oh yes. Oh yes. In fact, I just wanted to say something before we close. Munya, I thank you very much for getting hold of Ntate Motshekga. It's very difficult. He's a very busy person. When you keep on saying, hey, Kiambata, Kim Gray, hey, what, I know. He's a very busy person. Maufuna appointment na bozo zohlala la nje dependent on hotel. Madam Tata Mathole, I think last time I've spoken to you concerning our history. I've checked Google, the history of Tembisa, the history of South Africa. There's none. There's none at all. As if you can check as if you can check our kids. They will find nothing. Now, you have just said something about Tembisa, about our struggle, and I always said to people, during those dark days of apartheid, when it was not fashionable to be involved in a struggle, we were arrested, detained without a trial, and by that time you represented us very well. You have represented us. We've been arrested. We are John Foster Square, 10th floor. I've been to 10th floor in John Foster Square. And when Robert McBride here, if you can check this, this is Ntate Mathole, this is Robert McBride, this is myself, and Motshekga, the hair there, it was a disguise. Because by that time we were supposed to be discussed, because remember ukuthi ngalesikhathi samabhunu mawakufuna bazokufuna ngefoto, but we were told, and abontata Mathole the lady Isaac Mahlangu and other leaders who conscientized us, who told us, remember by that time we were not even aware about our politics. But when they conscientize us, then tell us why is it so important for us to fight for liberation. And some of us kind of say, wow, she survived. But I must say this thing that I'm told, while you are still alive, because we see sometimes this thing of waiting for you to die and then come with flowers and then said, Tata Mathole, help us when I was arrested, and then from there we were released without even paying a cent. I don't think it's good. We need to thank you while you're still alive. Whilst your heart still beats, I must bring flowers. And they said, Tata Mathole, thank you. Thank you very much. I will never be having a gold or silver to say thank you. But to say thank you, to me, is a silver. Yeah, to say thank you very much. You might not perhaps understand the role that you have played in our lives. Kulile Singaga manje, we're having these kids. Some of them, they don't even know ukuthi sibuyaphi. So, and I've spoken to as I said, we're having our living legends. People who can tell the story ukuthi sibuya, because abanye abantu mawukhuluma abanye bathi zithi uyaclaim, ayikho that thing. You see, as even usana bengathanda nayo meeting lapha youth center. You see, and maybe sometimes mara yena bekangibelieve yena, I must protect him. Yes, you see, as if you told him about him, we've been running around la. Abontata Mathole, ngafaka amasuti nje so. Yeah, masiye emacourt, you will see this person ukhuluma ngozitha, and then from there, and then tomorrow the magistrate will say, you are released with warning. Then one day you will then check. But you see, so that's why I said, Tata Mathole, thank you very much. I must say this thing for the first time. I know you have assisted not only me, some of us are no longer there, but the role that you have played as in our life, it will go unnoticed. It will go unnoticed, and really, these are the stories that need to